and welcome to UNIV300 Week 10. This week, we're looking at Google Scholar and forward citation chaining. And I'm Nicholas Schiller. For the next 3 weeks, you'll have Professional Nicholas. Carol will still be around, but she's not taking the lead on the delivery this week. So I'll make sure that we have a link for my office hours connection. My office hours are on Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m., but you can always shoot me an email or a message through Canvas to schiller@wsu.edu and see if we can't set up an appointment if my office hours aren't convenient for you. This week, if we look at the list up here, we'll want to take a look at all the things that are going to be asked of you, and it's actually a fairly light week, even though there are 2 things we're asking you to do. Google Scholar is kind of fun to play with, so there's a little more exploration and a little less content. But I do want to remind you and draw your attention to that there's both an assignment. You'll have some searching in Google Scholar to do, and some reflecting on how that experience might be different than searching you've done in some of the other tools we've talked about this semester. And also there is a graded discussion in the discussion thread. So make sure you look at discussion 3, read the instructions there, and do some citation chaining and talk about Google Scholar or Web of Science there. If we look in Canvas, we'll see we have some things for us this week. This is lesson 10. As I said, we're looking at Google Scholar and forward citation chaining. Here's where you'll find the assignment and the link to the discussion. But really what we're doing this week is we're looking at Google Scholar. Google Scholar is not a database in the sense that there isn't a record structure with organized metadata describing all of the things that are in the scholarly article, making it easy to find. Instead, it works a little bit more like the search engine, where it searches a lot of things. And so, like the search engine, Google Scholar has the advantages of a very large index of items to look through, and really powerful data centers doing the algorithm to sort things. On the other hand, it's not so great at very specific vocabulary searching, and it's not so great at being organized and filtered by experts, since it's machine learning and algorithms that are doing some of the sorting. So you get a few things faster at the expense of less control that the searcher gets. You will find what works best for you. My advice is Google Scholar is great for an introductory search or a search about something that you don't know a lot about. It's not as good for searching things that you have some expertise in and you spend some time learning the vocabulary that you can really drill down into. But again, we're going to explore it this week, and you will find what works better for you. If you're going to use Google Scholar, this first thing to be done in the settings is something that I really strongly recommend. It'll make your experience richer, and it will save you some time. So we're going to go up here to the upper left-hand corner, click on the hamburger, and go down to Settings. And once we're in the settings, we're going to go to Library Links. And this is all going to work a lot better if Google knows that you have access to our library. So we're going to enter in Washington State University. We're going to properly enter in Washington State University. And then we're just going to put these checks. And what these are going to do is when we find articles, it's going to know to show us the WSU holdings, so we get to see things that we already subscribe to. And what it's not going to do then is instead say, hey, pay $30 to see this article. and I'm sure you've heard it before, but please don't pay money for any of your research. Your tuition dollars already pay a lot of that, so if you go through the library, we can interlibrary loan and get you really anything that you need, and it won't cost you. So I'm going to save these. I'm not logged into Google. You can search whether you're logged in or not, but you may have to reset these changes if you're not logged in. But now that we've done that, we can have a little bit more powerful search. You will find as you search that there are a few things that you can do in Google Scholar. So if we do a search for, my search for today is cryptocurrency mining and climate change, we're going to find that there are a bunch of results. And we can limit by a few things. I'm going to limit by the absolute most recent things. This is a topic that's changing quickly. So I'm going to give us only things that have been published in the last few months. And that's going to show us some good things. If we back off a little bit and look at things that have been published for a while, we can find some things that have had enough time to be cited. And this is really what we're looking for. Cited by 14. If I click on that, it's going to show me the 14 articles that were published after this one that cite this one. Last week we were looking at citation chaining going backwards in history, backwards in time. We looked at an article and we saw that the other articles that the article that we're reading cited, so the things that were used to write this article, we could look up what those are. Here in Google Scholar, we can look forward and see, since this has been published, 14 other articles have come out that have said, hey, I'm going to use this or concepts in this article. And as we sort through here, we can see that we can find some more articles that will be really useful. And in case you were wondering what the things we did in the settings earlier did, is now it knows to show us the Find It at WSU button. So if we find an article that we think is interesting, we can click on that. And it's going to take us to the WSU libraries, probably have me sign in. Oh, I'm already signed in. That's good. And here it gives me a link right to where I can find this in WSU's subscribed collection. And here I have the full text of the article that I was looking at, which does deal with energy consumption, climate change, and cryptocurrency. Go back to scholar.google.com to look at a little bit more of what we can do for that. So just to show how this sorts of search works, if we're looking at, let's say, pandemic, but I want to be a little more positive, so I'm going to look at mutual aid or people helping each other. Here we can find more articles. We can find the link to WSU. We can see how many people have cited a particular article, other articles that are similar to that. This star icon will star it and add it to our collection in Google Scholar if that's something that you use. It's accessed through my library up here. And then the quotation marks here, if we click on that, we can copy a citation format that our article appears in. So if we want APA, Chicago, or MLA, they're right there. Okay. So that's what we can find through Google Scholar. I also want to show you Web of Science a little bit. So I'm going to go to the library's homepage. I'm going to go to Research Resources. And then in our alphabetical list of databases, we're going to go to W for Web of Science. Now, Web of Science is an interesting database. It doesn't work like normal databases. And in that, what I mean is a normal or a typical database is going to give you articles. Web of Science gives you citations. So if we want to search for an article, and in this case, I'll use that first search, cryptocurrency and climate change. Like a typical database, I can do a subject search and find a few articles. But what it really does is it has these times cited. And so if I click on this here, I'm going to find 9 articles that, since that one has been published, have included it in their list of citations. Again, last week we were looking at citations going backwards. What does this article cite? This week we're looking at citation going forward. What articles have cited this one? And we can see that we have a nice list of citations, and we can keep the chain going by finding another article that is highly cited and follow up on how many citations it has. And we can always use the Find It at WSU button to get the article that we need. So really that's it. That's what we have for this week. There's some readings, so make sure you go into Canvas and you look at the readings. They're short, and they're basically going to tell you a little bit about Google Scholar. And then we're going to have an assignment that asks you to explore Google Scholar and write a brief reflection on it in your research journal. And then there's a discussion that's going to ask you to do some forward citation chaining and then talk about what you found in a discussion and then interact with other people's discussions to get a conversation going. And that's what we have on tap for week 10. If you have questions, send them to Schiller, Schiller, at wsu.edu, or show up in my office hours, which are 2 to 4 o'clock on Thursday. Or again, send me an email and we can schedule a time to meet at another time. I'm happy to be back with you all this week, and I'm looking forward to your discussions and your assignments. Cheers and happy studying.